General advice, warning and disclaimer. Opinions, thoughts, research, recommendations and content presented are general advice only. They do not take into account your specific circumstances. Please consult a financial professional before making any investment decisions. For further information on our disclaimers and general advice, please see our website and our PDS.
Hey there, welcome to this week's edition of Bulls versus Bears. Apology for last week, we had a mystery illness go through the company.
That's it.
And so we were,
Was it a case of bullishitis or something?
No, I don't know. Everyone was too scared to call whether it was going to go up or down this week. So, and I am still sitting at 12 from 12 at this point.
Did you?
I was bullish last week. 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We will. I'm still on the street, but lucky 13, I suppose. But we'll see how we go.
Well, we'll find out. Your prediction at the end of this show, anyway.
No worries. Yes. No. I'm just going to do the right thing and turn my phone off. You were the media man this week. I was out there on the road. I did about 3,000 kilometres this week.
And that's the thing. I was actually called in for one, but I just couldn't do it. I had a busy week as well. But I did the close of business on Wednesday. That was actually the day before Nvidia earnings, which was the big thing. And then also on the news, which we'll talk about in Australian stock and we'll talk about now, is Woodside. So this is actually the first big decision from the Labor government. They approved the Northwest Shelf gas project up in Karapa for Woodside. This is a 6-year decision in the making. It was.
Oh my God, that's like.
Yes, exactly.
So that's two governments as well, because wow.
Exactly. So it was supposed to be like a 6-month review. It took them 6 years, and they've approved it. So Woodside has jumped on the news. They can operate the plant till 2070. So.
Oh wow.
And Labor had basically said, we understand renewables is the way to go, but we need baseload power. Natural gas is the way to go. So
that sounds very logical from Labor government.
Exactly right.
And a 6-year decision. That's only that's half the time it gets that it takes to get a granny flat approved in most councils. So,
exactly. So big news for Woodside there. And I was for some reason I was mildly positive about Nvidia. I thought it would actually just hit the top end of the range. Didn't quite hit 150, but it did get up to 140. On that night, and actually was the only thing that held up the stock market, because the rest of the stock market actually fell overnight last night.
Yeah,
and that was due to. So at the beginning of the week, we thought the courts deemed Trump's tariffs illegal.
So the International Trade Court, and then the Federal Trade Court in the US, and then this is the smart thing that the Republicans do. They play politics far better than the Democrats. Trump stacked the Supreme Court when he was there last. Well, I don't know. I'm not saying that he had a couple of them conveniently died, and because it is a lifetime appointment, and he got to replace them. So he just laughed and said, "No worries, we'll take it to the Supreme Court," which of course he's going to win
exactly,
because he pretty much put 3 of them there. So and as you can see, we're saying about Nvidia. Obviously, the picture behind there, or the cover shot this week is. The other one I did on the graphic AI was Atlas holding up the world, but it was a bull actually. With Nvidia definitely did the heavy lifting. I think if it had released its earnings last week, whereas the bullish tone was a little bit better, I think it would have blown through your target. That you're saying.
Exactly.
So it was pretty much the only thing remotely great. So
exactly right.
Costco had earnings as well. They slightly missed, but they weren't down too much. And that's another one where I think it'd be long-term great buying opportunity, basically. So, there's still some positivity. Mate, you're gonna have to run through the ASX stocks. It's been a planes, trains, and automobiles week for me. So.
That's true. Okay, but front cover, I did actually write a little article on, is this a bear market rally?
Yep.
And basically, it is.
Yeah.
Statistically, it is. But not to rule out that this could be one of the occasions where it just blows through the top. But
well, that's the thing is last year was last year marked the strongest 2-year rally in since the mid '90s, and in an interest rate, and the first half of it was in an interest rate tightening environment, which has never happened. So if it goes back through the record highs now, it'll be the first time in stock market history of 120 years or whatever it is, depending on which stock market you want to. It'll be the first time in 100 years in any stock market where it has fallen 20% plus and then blown straight back through the record highs. So I'm as a fairly, usually a fairly entrenched bear, I am so scared that it's going to do it, because markets lately and the way that the algorithmic trading works is that everyone is so stacked the same way that if there's even a smell of it getting through there, like there will be stops. Because the market will be short as so.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I'm seeing it is, so I follow like all the fund flows into the ETFs, and basically it hasn't abated. So yeah,
the fund flows in the ETFs. The hedge funds have never been like they're short as hell.
Okay.
So it depends on what fund.
Yeah. So I'm just talking ETFs.
Passive funds. Yeah,
it's the passive funds. So the Global X guys and Beta Shares, they just show fund flows. It's all public information on. So they have quarterlies, but these guys also share weekly, and it just looks quite constant. And that's obviously because
it's superannuation.
Exactly.
And in 1 month's time, it goes up by another 0.5%.
Exactly.
So then 12 cents of every dollar goes in,
and of that 2 cents goes to CBA.
Yes, or 3 probably.
Exactly. So yeah, it's statistically a bear market rally, but I am aware that we're not too far off from getting to the new highs. Plus, XJO at 8,400. If we hit 7,200 early April, on that Monday.
I know, because we bought it.
Yeah, exactly. So 7,200 to 8,400. If you had told me we'll get back to 8,400 by end of May, I would have just laughed and said,
if you said we get back to 8,000, you probably
exactly.
I'm pretty and I'm surprised about the companies that have led the rally.
Yeah,
because they were the most overpriced. They're the most expensive. They're trading the ETF favourites, or where most of the money must go in those passive ETFs. I mean, there must be an ETF that just buys Wesfarmers, JB Hi-Fi, and CBA because they're and Hub24 and Netwealth, because those things. There was no news, nothing at all about any of them, and they've blown through record. CBA's blown through record high.
Yeah, absolutely. So they just keep going higher and higher. So either way, let's see how that plays out.
Yes.
ASX news. So HealthScope actually went private maybe about 5-6 years ago. They were bought. I forget who they bought out by, but they actually went to receivership this week. So on the back of that, I'm like, hang on. How are private hospitals going out of business in this environment? So either way, HealthScope went into receivership. They actually got $100 million of sort of private funding just to keep the hospitals afloat. On the back of that, though, Ramsay Healthcare actually bounced. So there's an actual trade in that as well. REA Group, ACCC investigating them for actually hiking up their prices. I know a few real estate agents, and they're like, yeah, you could use Domain. It is a bit cheaper, but everyone, it's like they have a monopoly. REA.
I don't mind necessarily a monopoly based on demand, not based on regulation. Would be my issue.
Yeah, exactly right. But basically, they've got a great website. It provides a service, and everyone goes to it. So it's just the default thing.
So essentially, what the ACCC may very well come back and just say to Domain, just be better. Basically,
or any competitors. Like if they're actually, so most of the antitrust situations in the US are usually involved with, you have a platform and you don't let others have fair share on your platform. This is
free market dominance.
Yeah. So this is a website that just lists real estate. There's nothing stopping anyone else to do the same thing. So it's like, how can you have a monopoly of that? So
Look,
Especially when
to be honest, the real estate agents themselves need to check themselves because we're one of the only countries, well, not one of the only, but there's a lot of countries out there where most people just sell their own home and they don't get charged like a wounded bull for it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
in Canada, they laugh at you if you sell through a realtor. So unless you've got to move quickly, you just sell your own place. Yeah. And the Australians are just I think there's some low cost people out there, but they've got a pretty good cartel going, making sure that they never drop below that the 3 to 4% mark. So
yeah, so it's so yeah, there are like 1.5%, but yeah.
No, but that's only recent. There was it's always been pretty pretty tightly held.
And we've already talked about Woodside there. So on to US earnings. So Nvidia hit it out of the park. Costco, so, and the price reaction. But I would like to say, and I put a little bit in there, TLT, US bonds. So we often, because Guards has a background in rates. I look at it because I understand how funding flows into the system. And we were so worried about the 30 years and the long end just hitting all these new highs. But just last night, US bond auction, they had a strong bid to cover ratio, and those yields have dropped off. And from what I've seen before is that once you hit those sort of panic levels and it hasn't sustained it, hasn't busted through, now it's pulled back, I think you'll see a little bit of a rally in the bonds here. Well, so I think we might see a retreat in the yields.
And I'm gonna put my tinfoil hat on here. Mm-hmm. The bid to cover rate, there was basically no bid in the Japanese bond auctions.
Uh-huh.
So I would say, they normally when the bond auctions, there's no the Treasury's not marketing, they're not going, you should buy our bonds. It's just they're always in demand, and bond yields spiral to the upside out of control in Japan because the bid to cover ratio was unheard of, it was terrible. I would say the Treasury might have. Because most of them are either ex-Goldman Sachs and then going back to Goldman Sachs again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They would have seen that and gone, we can't afford this to blow through, and they would have rung around and gone, make sure you're on the bid, because it's a big confidence thing. And if it had had a terrible bid to cover ratio, because it did make a new 18-year high.
Yeah, it did. And that's what we were worried about. But it's just it got smacked in the head.
It went 40 basis points in Japan on the back of a bad bid to cover. So bid to cover for anyone, basically, you always get a better price when at an auction when there's 2 or 3 bidders. Yeah, and you don't get a great one when there's no bidders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they got pretty much no bidders. They got half a bidder, I think. So they're it is very. I would say they would have done a little bit of subtle marketing, but you want that for a stable economy.
Exactly right. It's the plumbing of the economy. It's basically it's the core of their finance. They need to keep the government funded. They need to.
So I'm not saying when I say tinfoil hat, I'm not saying I disagree with it because I don't want the economy to go down the tubes and everything to fall apart.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we're in financial markets and we're investing for people. Death riding the economy is not a very good thing.
No.
But if to use your toilet analogy, maybe they put that snake down just to to make sure it was cleared out. And to be honest, probably more effective than jawboning sometimes.
Absolutely. Just
because people, it's a very big confidence game when it's at big levels like that, and no one wants to get caught. Yeah. So and the Japanese are just hopeless at that sort of stuff. Asian markets generally, they don't play they don't manage confidence very well. They just,
that's true.
When
we always see it, when there's panic, it's always that Monday morning.
And the Asian markets love to panic. And the Americans walk in on our Monday night, Tuesday, and then Monday morning they go, what the hell's it doing down here?
Exactly, let's buy it up.
Yeah, I think that trade. I should back test that trade one day because I reckon any move over 2 or 3% to the downside on the Monday morning, I reckon you make money probably about 80 or
90%. We coined it turnaround Tuesday.
So, yeah. Oh, there you go.
That's actually a fairly.
If there's been a phrase coined, it must be right.
Yeah. But it was always Monday panic, turnaround Tuesday. So that's it. And then
so we're So it was a bit greener than I thought. It just petered out towards the end of the week, really.
Well, the thing is, though, so if you look at the actual just US futures, so after Nvidia came out after market, all the futures actually shot up to new highs, and then you come in the next day, you're like, oh, it's actually just reversed there. So that's why you probably saw that the US markets were down. You saw the bad prints, but what happened was after Nvidia came in, we just shot out to new highs, and I thought it would keep going, but it actually reversed overnight.
And obviously, Elon's back. Tesla up 8.
Yeah, so that's I actually have an article there, but basically he's no longer at Doge, and it was just all on the back of Trump just said we're going to spend more money. so basically, he's done all the work to try and save money,
and then Trump spent it.
Yeah,
like in one tax bill,
exactly
before it was even finished.
Yeah. So Elon said, "Oh well, I tried. I'm going to go run my companies now."
But everyone's hating on Elon, but if you're going to go and sack 3, 4, 500,000 people, and then under the guise of like we're trying to rescue the budget, and then you literally go and give away 100 billion more than that in tax cuts. I'm trying really hard not to swear, basically. And if I was Elon, I'd be like, it cost him a few billion or tens of billions of his own money with the drop in Tesla shares. So,
well, it did rally on the back of the election as well. So yeah, it's
but
I mean, it doubled. It went from 250 to 500.
Yeah,
pulled back to 3.
Down to
250.
Yeah, got back down to 250,
and that's around 350.
So I remember saying to someone on the phone, a client, like, I'll never get back down to 300. I'll chuck a bid down there just in case. And I saw that it was done, and thankfully I didn't put in the full amount, thinking that if it gets down there, but I just didn't want to miss out. And I think the morning I came in, it had blown through there by like 8 or 9%, and it was at $270 or something. And I'm like, do you want to buy some more? But look, I think earnings is over now. I think I'm still of the opinion that payrolls is the thing. One of the interesting things I heard from Jensen in Nvidia was stats on AI usership was China is 50% plus of the AI queries in the world. But the rest of the world is somewhere between 51 and 40%. So he said 50 to 60. He's being very broad. So, but let's say, China is like over half, and the whole rest of the world is the rest.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So and not just companies, consumers, and the government as well. So and that's why he's turning around just going like,
I want to sell some chips there.
He goes, I really would like to sell some chips there. And they did get them sold to Qatar, or you got to get a deal done to sell them to the.
Yeah, well, Trump was in Qatar.
But he was there for his plane.
That's right.
He got a gift, which is highly illegal and against the Constitution, but he just accepted it anyway. So, same as the trade deals, also illegal. There's this whole thing where you don't bypass every branch of government for every decision. I think that's generally called a dictatorship. But I'm not going to split hairs with Mr. Trump. I think he'll have another thing. He did not like being called taco this week, so I'm expecting which is Trump always chickens out. And a journalist asked him about the phrase because he reversed the EU. He put 50% tariffs on EU and reversed within 36 hours. And they said, "What do you think about the taco comment?" And he glared at the guy and pointed at him and said, "You were told you weren't allowed to ask questions about that, right?" So also so much for free press. But I think he's going to stamp his authority this week. But
because I did see a few articles on. He must have wrote them. He said Trump never chickens out. Type of thing.
No. That was in response. That was in there. So, and I love that they've managed to get a taco, which actually is in a U-shaped turn. So, very, very clever, whoever that was, and my deepest condolences to the journalist family, because I dare say he may have had an accident on the way home with the Secret Service guys walking away.
That's it.
Putting their uniform back on. So yeah. Oh wow, we've still got the
So I haven't.
Lululemon. So that'll be. I would imagine that'll be a disaster. We are. I mean, credit to the boys for doing it.
Broadcom's big.
Yeah, Broadcom's pretty big. Lululemon, they watch quite a bit. But
Do these guys make the cubes or?
I don't know. But yeah, no. Look, like I said, I'm pleased that the young blokes still did their job, but yeah, no, I might have to have a chat with them about. You don't have to do it on the weeks that Campbell's Soup is reporting. But there we go. Hewlett Packard's in there. That used to be the.
I didn't know GitLab was. Okay, interesting.
That might be new. Well, Samsara, Samsara isn't reporting this week because John Deere bought them for $300 billion. So,
okay, well,
so yeah. So, but look, you know what? Let's just go ahead and ignore the calendar for this week and move on to now. The reason all these look really small is
uranium.
Yeah. Every dog has his day.
That's it.
That was a policy announcement, was it not?
Yeah. So Trump is going to fast track approvals for any nuclear plants. So if usually it takes years and years of delays, he's just saying I'm going to fast track approval. So that actually just shot up the.
And that's up 13% with last night being down 2%. So,
exactly. So
yeah, I do this. I copy the data into the chart every morning. I've been like, what the hell's? Why is everything so small? There must be something wrong with the chart. And I realised uranium's up.
But this is the other one to keep note. Bitcoin. So Bitcoin hit. I think the high was maybe 111, 112 thereabouts. It's pulled back to 106 now. So if it stays above 100, I still think that's overall bullish. But yeah, Bitcoin does Bitcoin things. So
no, Bitcoin
hasn't been as volatile. Correct.
No, the ETFs was like Bitcoin's asset class bar mitzvah. I reckon you could describe it as. It's become a man, or a woman, or whatever. I don't want to insult anyone out there. But yeah, we are in the process of pricing up a US because the US is federal. They're doing a crypto reserve. Mm-hmm. We're not going to, because there was a few fairly poor choices from Trump. He probably just picked a couple of coins that he had himself. But we are doing a structured investment next month, as in June, where we will do a capital protected basket. So you can't go backwards more than, well, initial pricing's around about 15%, but basically you get a 2 or 3 year long leverage to the upside, but you can't lose any more than your 15% you put in. So because what people are generally concerned about is the downside. So we build a product from scratch, basically, where it's capital guarantees, and then but you get 3 or 4 times the upside. So for those who are crypto wary, it'd be a very good product to be able to leverage off the back of it, because I don't think Trump Jr. was giving a massive speech on how they're going to be supportive and the way he pitched it was, when Trump lost the presidency, the banks wouldn't even speak to him after that because he was no use anymore. So they are very big on.
Yeah.
Well, look, whether that's just a story he's telling. I mean, he is from the Trump family, but I don't think that these crypto is going to be going backwards. So be sure to check out for that. It'll probably come out second or third week of the month next month, and it'll be a really good and safe way to dip your toe into the crypto waters soon. So. And there's a new article on our education site on our website, which explains, for those of you who are not crypto learned, and it's done by me, so it's not massively overcomplicated. I have done, basically the idiot's guide to crypto, and explained a bit on blockchain and what the usage in terms of either as the ledger on the blockchain or as a or as a store of value like Bitcoin sort of performs as. So look out for that, guys.
Yeah. So, but just in general, so one thing I have noticed is that gold and silver, the actual spot prices have not moved, but the miners are moving. So it is a selective sort of move. Like not every single miner is moving, but I just noticed I've got a couple of silver miners that have perked up on my radar. Same thing with some gold miners that just keep heading higher. So keep an eye on those. That's the actual area that's moving. And I was actually on Ausbiz, I think 2 weeks ago. So I showed the gold versus gold miners. So if you look out, say, last 3 years, gold's up, say, 80%. Gold miners are up 70%. But since January, so 1st of January, gold miners are up 50%. Spots up about 30%. So that's actually where the action is.
Someone, if you go back to, if you want to go back to probably about 20 episodes ago, you might hear someone super smart named Mark Gardner saying, the miners will play catch up. So we were banging that drum for ages, and everyone was like, just stay in gold. So, but as well, we did a geopolitical strategy with structured investments this week, and what started out as trying to be a 2 to 3 pager ended up being an 8 pager, and I didn't walk away feeling. I walked away being thankful we live in Australia, because we not only are we very very isolated. I was kind of half considering moving to Perth, the most isolated capital city in the world. There is a lot of geopolitics going on at the moment. Trump defunding NATO or wanting to defund NATO and defence contractors. So percentage of GDP has gone from 2 to 2.5% of all global GDP goes into defence, and that's taken ages to get there. They reckon it's going to go hurtling towards 4% of GDP over the next up to 2030.
Well, I mean, like you just look at all the single names in space lasers.
Space lasers, yeah.
Drone Shield, ASB, even Coden, L-Sites moved up. So just that whole space has got heavy.
And obviously we looked at there was a pretty big basket. But Boeing, Airbus do it, but their revenues are too small. But cybersecurity was another big one where they're making a lot of spending, because that kind of is you're not killing anyone. So but that's the thing, Doc. That's where, like, if you talk to people in the know, so that's where it will start.
No, I'm saying it's actually been going.
Yeah.
Like, so people are expecting World War III to be kinetic. It's actually not. There's actual areas where it's actually like World War III already. So, especially in space, like China's released satellites that attack other satellites and instances like that. Underwater.
I want to see a satellite fight now.
Underwater sea cables. There's been a lot of sabotage.
Yes, in the North Sea.
Exactly, and obviously cybersecurity. So keep it. So economy and politics. We already
largely covered that. But more to the point was silver and platinum were two things where, so silver was Mexico and South America produce a lot of it, and Africa, or South Africa particularly, and basically they've taken on they've gone, well, if you're going to be nationalistic, so are we. So there's going to be, like, Mexico's a massive silver producer, so is Peru. Mexico's going very nationalistic. They're just like, screw you guys. We're going to tariff the crap. If you're going to do it, you're going to try and ruin us. And they're apparently starting to. You're an international miner. It's like, get out. So, and then not nationalised, but if you want to mine in Mexico, you got to be Mexican, sort of thing is what they're trying to push through. Peru and Chile, very much the same thing, but they've been burning down Chinese mines in Chile for 2 years now, basically. So the locals, because unemployment's 28-30%. So, and the money's all going offshore. It goes back to the Pinochet era, like in the 80s. There's just mobs going and burning down like operational mines, and that's been going on for a while. But they still seem to keep it going. I don't know how, but South Africa and Russia are 90% of the world's platinum supply. Both commodities have had structural supply deficits for 5 years straight, and the inventories are at record lows. So, and then Putin's breached Polish airspace 3 times this week. and said and had a crack at NATO. So and Trump's threatening sanctions. So have a look at platinum and silver as well, because they technically don't look too bad. And then if they break, and we're not trying to buy the break in them.
Mhm.
They're actually silver's a couple bucks below.
Yeah.
Platinum has rallied, but when platinum goes, it goes. It
Yeah.
doubled.
Well, I think what you're trying to say is that they look ready to break. If you get in now, they haven't broken yet.
But you don't want to buy the break. Well, sorry, speaking from experience, I have the scars. You're better off buying into the break than you are buying the break, because this is about fourth or fifth crack.
Yeah.
But when they invaded Ukraine, platinum pretty much doubled in about 3 days.
Yeah.
So there is potentially a trade there. And this is far more a geopolitical sort of threat than anything else. And Asian central banks are basically running out of places to buy gold from. The London Metals Exchange basically warned people, because it's a deliverable futures contract, that there's no way they'll be able to get enough hands on enough gold if there was high levels of delivery.
Wow.
So they warned people that they will likely have to cash settle if too many people try to get physical delivery.
Wow,
so they're starting to buy silver and platinum now because they can't get their hands on the rest. So look, that one was a red flag for me. But the London Metals Exchange has also looked in their inventories and found bags of rocks instead of nickel. So I wouldn't be trusting them anyway for physical delivery. But now Mika Metals, sorry.
So I had it on the trade in February. No. Wasn't much. Well, they're maybe about 14 cents. Yeah, sorry, back here. So it broke out to 14. I wrecked it on the trade. It hasn't gone anywhere. But the thing is, they actually go into production at the end of June. So what you're buying a company that's almost in production, and that is usually a good signal that it will start rising. So,
well, revenue always helps.
Exactly.
And apparently they got a pretty good resource.
It's a great resource, and it's only 350 odd mil market, or 370 mil market cap. You look at some of the comparables, some that are in production with their mine reserves, they're about $1 billion market cap. So there should be
there should be a re-rate, you would imagine, and it's been a fairly solid trade being long gold miners recently.
Yep.
So they would have started building that mine in 2024. Basically, their margins increased by 80% from what they thought when they started. But what else? Fear and greed. That doesn't.
So it was actually It was actually 69 last week. Back down to 64. One thing I have found. So the breadth. So this actual shows that off the lows, it wasn't just the Mag 7 being bought. It was actually the whole market. Being bought. So that's why a lot of people that were, say, on the fence about, is this a bear market rally or is it not? They're saying, look at the breadth. We haven't seen this much buying in the entire market for this long. So, that's an interesting stat there. And obviously, look at the put-to-call ratio. No one's buying insurance at the moment. But we are in a news-driven environment, so obviously that can change.
I am surprised that we haven't got to extreme greed through this. This is the steepest bear market rally. Well, if it turns out to be a bear market rally, it is the steepest and most severe bear market rally in history, and we still didn't get to extreme greed.
Yeah, so it got to 69 last week.
I think in the week before it was like 73 or something.
Yeah.
And that's why I was still bullish, was because I didn't want to change my tune too much until for next week. But,
so with that, now that we've got this information out of the way, what's pick number 13, huh?
Lucky 13, hey.
Yeah.
I think, as I said before, I think...
Is it non-farms next week?
That is a extraordinarily good question. I don't think it is, but it should be.
Well, the thing is, like,
it'll be. Sorry, it will be. It will be this Friday for sure.
But
it's like the 7th or something.
Yeah, but we'll make our we'll record the show before that.
Before that comes out anyway. But yeah, I think I don't think it goes too much either way. But if I had a gun to my head, I'm probably bearish, but not only because I think Trump doesn't like to be embarrassed, and a lot of it is, and statistically, it's I think the risk rewards to the downside. I personally think it is like have a RDO and register the day off until payrolls comes out, because I think the market's going to be the same way.
Mm-hmm.
There's no good earnings unless you're into Campbell's soup earnings. There's no big economic figures till the Friday. Trump's the only thing that can derail it, and I think he's out of good news.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he just drift lower. But look, it's he really doesn't. He's already tacoed on. He's already tacoed on. There's only, and I think he's gonna. I've been watching him and the way he's behaving, and then the following days when I've been watching Bloomberg in the mornings and things, I just don't see him being. He's going to try and have a bit of a show of strength, I think, this week, which that'll be what buggers it up. But I normally.
So are you? So
I'm bearish.
Okay, so the call is bearish.
The call is down, but I'm not bearish. I'm just saying that I think if I would be square, I would have no positions if. But we've got to obviously pick one side. I think Trump's a risk this week is basically what I'm saying, and I'd be bearish. But
so I'll buy it off you. I'm bullish.
Yeah.
So the way I see it, the bounce into today. I mean, like I'm just talking about the XJO month end. I think we'll have a good month end for US tonight as well, and I think it just drifts higher into next week. So,
look, you know what? I reckon we'll have to check the number, because
it'll be like
where it might be when futures stops and could be the difference.
Exactly. Oh well,
I'm not high conviction either way, but I just like I said, if I had to be anything, I'd be short, only because I just think Trump's ego won't let him shut up, and he's gonna prove to everyone he's not a chicken. And I think, which is, I've got to say, the dumbest investment thesis I've ever had to put out, but we've also got fairly loose president in the United States.
So the theory is that Trump's not going to back down. He's gonna do something.
Yeah, that's really it. But if we were in the Biden era, I'd be buying with you, because he'd just be asleep at the wheel. So Trump was going after Biden as well, basically, because he said he must have known he had cancer. Like, I mean, that's really. You probably just leave that topic alone, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that wraps it up pretty much. And again, apologies for last week. We weren't all out on the yacht. There was just a bit of a work from home, situation. We work in close quarters, so we'll be back again next week. No one gets sick again. Kai's still in bed, and we will chat to everyone next week.
Thanks a lot.
I